Thank you very much for the invitation. For me, it's really a pleasure to be here, and I would love if you enjoy the conversation with me, and also my idea is to discuss about the impact of AI in business, in companies, in organizations, and also in teams and people, because we are all part of this like new era. So that's the main purpose of my talk today. So I am going to share my screen in order to start the presentation. Okay, so are you seeing my screen okay now? Perfect.
Yes, we can see.
Perfect. Great. So again, thank you very much for the invitation. For me, it's really an honor to be sharing with you my experience and all my learnings, my failures, my the goals that we achieve in this AI era. So thank you very much again for the invitation, and I hope you all enjoy the meetup today. I do not want to talk a lot about myself, as already they present to me. My name is Camila Manera. I am a manager research data scientist. Something I want to share a lot about my experience is that I am a very strange profile, because I love a lot creativity, and I am a graphic designer, and I have been turned back into the AI field for the last years also. So I have a very like strange combination between these two worlds, but I love it like the both from the same. So I think that it's very good, because in an AI aspect, we need to be also very creative, and all the design aspects help us a lot with the all the information and the insights we want to develop and work on. One of the things I like the most about artificial intelligence is that when I mention the word to different people, they all like turn their faces, like say, wow, I'm very like impressive expressions. And I think that it seems like they feel the term like very strong and very like something from the future, that if I am talking, so something futurist, like for that way. So I think that it's very curious, because every person in this world that has access to a smartphone use AI every day of their lives, and perhaps they are not noticing it, but the main applications we use every day, like Google, Amazon, Disney Plus, Netflix, and Facebook, they are the most used apps in the world, and most of them is thanks to this technology. So that's why it's very curious, and I think it still feels like it's like a trip to the future. No, although we are using it every day, we seem this term like very further from the near future. So I find out that understanding the complexity of how AI really works, it's like very different to comprehend, and we use internet every day of our lives, and perhaps we don't even notice or know how it happens and how it works. But likewise, they are part of our everyday task, and we take advantage of this technology because it helps us to achieve goals and things. So I love, and I use a lot this example because I think it's a very simple way of using and explaining the power of AI. And you can try it right now if you want. If you pick your phone and you go to the photo application, and you search like from some photos like beach or mountain, depend of what you like the most, you are going to see there an image classifier model just in your hand that it's developed with machine learning. And I like very much this example because of these following insights. How much time do you need in order to organize all your beach or mountain photos, depending what you have develop and search for. For example, in my case, I have like 20,000 photos. So I'm going to take like an hour and a half, perhaps, if I am very fast. And my iPhone just solved it in one single moment and instant. So This is why artificial intelligence for me becomes a passion, because it helped me to be more like efficient and save time. And I do not know if you feel the same about this, but for me, saving time, it's one of the most precious gifts everybody can give me, because it's one of the limited resources that we have in our professional and personal life. And that's it's when I think we use technology in our favor. We understand that technology, it's a complement of things, and it's not gonna to replace anything that we have in our hands. So of course, that knowing how that classifier model that I show you before, it's another big problem. And I know that most of you that you're listening to this conversation, you are in the journey of understanding the logic behind that. But for me, understanding how apply this technology to what type of problems and generate a real impact of business is another big challenge that it's not very easy to achieve. No, so each role in these teams and in these companies, in these organizations, is essential to make this amazing technology work. So I think that it's like playing a game in a team, and if each one of the team it's not there, they can even compete. So under this concept of game, I would love to introduce you, for me, what it's and how I been using these AI workflows in order to apply this technology in businesses, in teams, in small companies, in big companies, in each one that you find about. So it all begins with a business problem or question we need to solve. Every time we start an AI project, it's because we want to solve a problem. It's because we have an idea of something we need to achieve. So it all starts with this starting point. And here it's where the decision science team came into place. Decision intelligence or decision science, they are both called with these two names. It's a term that Google introduced us some years ago because it's a discipline that combines different type of professionals such as data science, social science, and managerial science into one unified field in order to improve businesses, achieve goals, and also make these projects successful. After that, you need to acquire and clean the data. And here is where the data engineering came into place. And after that, you need to go to the conduct exploratory analysis. And here you have a combination, depending if you need something more descriptive or more predictive. And you can have profiles such as data analytics or data science. And the final roadmap of this, it's all finished with the conclusions and inference, and they really impact in the problem, how the problem finishes. And here, for example, you can work on developing a data product as a solution, or making analysis on how this is going to impact in the business in the near or far future if you need it. So in order to create this workflow successful, you need to have a very solid structure and culture in your organization or the team you're working on. So transforming into a data-driven organization takes more than technology. So you're going to listen me repeat this a lot, but you have these two phases in the AI era. So you have the technology side and the human side that are working together all the time. So since the change this changing that we are developing and we are presenting requires new skill sets, processes, and behaviors to supply a real deployment of self-service analytics solution, executives and leaderships play a critical role in advocating and orchestrating this change. So we need to be all on board in this changing and transformation process, because if not, this is where, and I'm going to say some examples in some more slides, but it's something that makes the projects much more difficult. So also this is, in my opinion, in order to develop a very good data-driven culture into an organization, storytelling data plays a key role because our objective is not just to show data. We want to tell stories about it, because when we show an insight that came along with the story behind it, we have more chance that the idea is going to be taken into consideration. It's like studied, and we have a lot of information that help us to make our ideas and make much more impact when we not just show a number or an insight, but we explain and make storytelling behind that. And this happens because we can translate data analysis into layman's terms in order to influence a business decision or action. And I think that's a mission critical skill, no? So in this new era of teams and people's organizations and profiles, having this chance of trying to transmit a concept in a very clear way, that would make the impact much easier than if we make some complexity in the middle. So we can run a brilliant analysis of our data, that it's going to happen a lot. But if we can explain our results, we are adding any value to the business or the organization and generating not impact at all. So I think these are all things that we have to take in consideration in order to become a more solid professional and have more tools in order to make the impact and generate in a very easy way. And this all happens because faster access to data give us stronger analytics capabilities. So if we can achieve easy the data that we have and we can explain it in the very best way, we are going to have and take better business decision. So how we can make all these things work and more easy to establish. So before I have talked about the importance of a data-driven culture, and to have a data-driven culture, we also have a need to have a solid digital workspace. So this is fundamental and very important because they ask us a lot, how can I make this possible? And I think that we need three things we have to take three things into consideration. So first, what for me is the most important in this process, that it's the people and the teams. So we need to identify leadership. We have to promote a digital cultural first. We have to merge profiles and we have to help them in order to be prepared in this cultural transformation, that it's not easy for anybody. And we are all passing through that experience, and it's very important to develop and work on that. Also about processes, no? We have to improve collaboration, we have to create an innovator pipeline, we have to build responsible corporate culture, and last but not least, the part of the technology. So we need to embrace the digital transformation. Of course, that we need to have very solid technology. But in order to make all this work, we have to have these three things all the time in balance. And I think that it's one of the key things in this transformation process. I think one of the things I already mentioned before, but I would love to discuss today, and after we can continue with the discussion a lot of time, is that for me, I think AI, it's like a superpower, that we have it next on the corner. And I think one of the keys of this transformation area is that we need to know how to use it well and how it can impact and help improve my business, my team, my organization. And I think that it's one of the biggest challenges that every business is facing now, or if they are not facing this now, they're going to be facing in the near future. What I love the most about AI is that we can use AI to solve problems, like the problem I presented before. I need to search for a photo and perhaps I have to be a lot of time doing that. So every company or business in this world is going to be facing these kind of problems, no matter the stage of maturity their business is. So one very important question is, how can I use AI? No? How can I apply it? How can I use it? How can I think about a project of that? And I think we have to think it in the other ways. It's that what problem I have and how and what technology I needed to solve that. So this is primarily because AI can or cannot be the solution to all the problems that we can have in a team or in a company. And sometimes they assume that they need technology, and most of the times they are right. but not always is like that. So you need firms to understand like deeply the problem. And I think it's very important, the research phase of this, make a lot of interviews with the principal stakeholders, with the final users, with the consumers, if this applies. Because generally, and I am talking about my personal experience in this case, is that the problem sometimes it's presented from a team, from another team, and perhaps sometimes this is not even the final user. So in the chain of all these people, we listen to a lot of assumptions, and that make us work for the team who is presenting the problem, but not for the final user. And these sometimes make us make a lot of mistakes. And what we need the most, and what we need to listen to the most, is to the final user. That for me, it's like the king of all these situations. So listen to them. It's going to help us to understand much better the problem, and also take better decisions. So in other words, in this first stage of understanding the problem, in the whole workflow that I presented before, you need to be a good person who listens. So I like to call this like the genius lamp phase, because you need to become a storyteller. That is what I presented to you before, and give the team or the people that are working in this project the chance to present the problem, and that they have the superpower to ask for everything they need and to be creative. And we can show them that with this technology and with other technologies, we can make them like achieve everything that they want. So generally, when you have like the first meeting in this research phase, you have the first meeting with the people and the team, and you come, they come with a problem and the solution. Like they have a kind of closed box, no? So I have this problem. This is the solution. I think it's the best for my business. And I think that the most interesting stuff when it came along, when this box is open, and I know a lot of alternatives came along. So after having this research phase, we will be able in the first stage to decide if AI or ML it's the proper technology for this business problem that we need to solve. And that's why for me, this stage is so important, because you are preventing of failing. I am not saying that failing is something bad. I think we learn a lot of failing. But when we are in a business and we are with some times and we are with some budgeting problem, although that everything we can do in order to prevent this, it's going to be much easier for the future. So and this is one of the main reasons why some AI projects fail, because of assumptions and not understanding correctly the problem. So if I don't understand the problem, I cannot make a good solution. So, and as I mentioned before also, it's because AI, it's not the solution to all the problems that we have in this world. There are other technologies and methodologies that can be used. And if we understand it correctly, we're going to be much and take much better decisions. So if after this phase, this primary phase, we decide that AI might or not be the solution, we must follow some steps. And I think before I presenting these steps, it's that data tell us things that we didn't know that they were there. So I like to bring up some concepts, like it helps us to break two preconcepts that we have. The interesting thing is that we perhaps came with a preconcept, and after some analysis, we say, okay, it's otherwise. It give us courage to take better decisions. It's very important because we can combine data and experience, and with that two things working together, things are much easier on the path. And also because we need to understand very well the problem, as I mentioned before, and making the right questions and to understand that, it's going to help us a lot. And also because of all the confirmation bias that we can have. So it would help us to say, okay, I think the things are going to be always like this, and perhaps with data, I assume that things are going to be the otherwise. So I think you perhaps might listen a lot this term that AI is oxygen for AI. So that's why also I have been talking a lot about data because they are partners in this journey. So in the first stage, so if data is our oxygen, we need to understand the data that we have. And here I open another big gate in this incredible AI experience that we are going to start, is that we need to understand our data, where we have the data, if it's clean enough, if it had the size that we needed. If most of the answers that I mentioned before, we say no, so perhaps we can even start the project, or we have to go to the first stage, that is we have to have all this data in order to make this project successful. So one of the first biggest AI projects that I have been working on, I remember we were having like a lot of meetings, brainstormings. We know what we wanted to do, and we say, okay, where is our data? And our data was one place in one place, with one vendor, other with third-party clients that we have. So it was very complex to make all that data work together. So in that moment, the project failed very quickly, because we know what we need to achieve. We know what's the problem that we need to solve, but the data was very difficult to achieve. So in that moment, we decided that first we want to have to work in that part, and afterwards we have to decide if that's going to be the right path or not. As I mentioned before, for me, data and AI are the perfect partners in this journey. So the amazing part of this is that if we have the data, AI could help us to automate most of the analysis that we have, and we can search for trends and bring to the front the most interesting things to make and take quick business decisions. And here is one of the biggest advantage we can take from AI. AI could help us become as intelligent and personalized as we couldn't achieve it ever before. So that's why I love to talk about this part, that it's going to be like become very good listeners for our customers, or from our customers, if we are thinking about a final user, or if it's something for like the inside of the company or for the teams. Also, we have always final users. It doesn't matter if they're customers or insiders, but it's very important to listen to them. And if you look for the path, first we need to achieve and have as data as we can, so that we could recommend the best services or products, because it gives us the chance to not also understand our final user or consumer, but give them a personalized experience, giving them the sensation that each product that we develop or each solution that we develop was designed just for them. So that's why as much data as we can have, it would help us understand that very, very good. And as much data as we have, also it's very complex because of the administration, and in the engineering of that, of course, becomes much complex. And here it appears another big challenge that we can discuss is also further in the presentation. But in this process and in this path, it also appears what I mentioned before, that for me is one of the most important things in this AI era, that is the cultural and transformation side of things. So how we train and help the teams to change the way they work before, it's one of the biggest challenges we are going to go through this journey and era that we are presenting. So because the analysis to transform this data and insights into business ideas is definitely very complex, and we just discussed it before, but you need to have all the key persons in the team so that this process really works. As I mentioned before, this is a team player, and it's a project that needs for all the parts. So that is one of the key roles and insights for this. So what happened if for example, the final user receives a data insight that is the opposite of what they were doing. Like one of the terms I also introduced before, that it's a part of the confirmation bias. So how they feel about this, and here I bring to the front the most sensitive human side of AI, that all that people and teams who work all their lives in some particular way, and now you come with a new team structure, you present new insights that are completely the opposite of how they were taking decisions to affect the business. So we need to ask them and think about and make like retrospective if these teams are prepared to change, because it's not so easy at any time, and we cannot apply good AI if teams and companies that are working in these type of projects don't want or can't change. We need to be very careful and guide them all these different profiles, so that when AI launches, we have all the team on board, because if not, we are going to start a fight that it's not going to help anybody, and we need to first work on this in order to later apply these AI projects into the different teams and impact the business with AI technology and also other technologies. So this is also another reason why AI projects sometimes fail, no? Because this part is not taken into consideration, and it makes like all the chains start to break down and problems start to appear in this field. So my humble advice here is that when you recognize that you have a business problem and you recognize also that AI is the solution, you have to open 2 or 3 working tracks. From one side, you need to start looking into the data and how it's going to be used, like I mentioned before. And at the same time, you need to see and understand how your team, how can you help them jump in and see all the amazing opportunities AI can give them, how they would become better professionals, and not seeing AI as a threat, no? How your team is going to carry this over is your goal. It's our goals as leaders, no? That we need to show them the path, and we cannot force it. There are things that we cannot force it. We need to be by their side and go with them, because they are very strong and powerful transformations, and we need to go by their side. And final, but not least, if we have the final user of the project, see how they open are to listen to different points of view. If they're open to listen to new solutions, new alternatives, because here is also another big challenge, because we can work on an incredible analysis with AI and ML projects, and the final user says, okay, I have been working for like this way for the last 15 years. Why have I have trust in this algorithm or insight that you are bringing to me? Because the results are good for me. So here appears another big challenge, and there are things that we need to anticipate as much as we can, so that later the impact is not so aggressive and so difficult to achieve and change the things on the road. So that's why I feel so incredible that besides, I think, we all know that AI is going to change and impact all the business across the globe. Most company teams and professionals see all these changes in a faraway future. That is one of the most complex problems that we're going to see as soon as we start AI projects. We need to guide them and show them the advantages, so that everyone is able to transform and not lose on the path. When I start working with AI, I will never forget that when I just say the word AI to different friends and colleagues, and I'd say, I'm studying AI, I'm studying artificial intelligence, I am doing this, they all tell me, okay, we are going to lose our jobs. So I think that sometimes it's a term that generates a lot of afraid in people. But for me, it's not because it's really that the problem, but I think nobody or there is not we are not making a lot of focus and guidance in teaching and showing how there works and how this can improve their day by day with this technology. And that, I think, we have another big challenge. We cannot not take into consideration the human side of this transformation, because that people, that teams, that colleagues are going to be the ones that make AI successful or not. So we need to pay a lot of attention on that point. So if we are talking about AI since 1995, why it seems like AI now it's unstoppable? So I think this is because of two main things. Because data collections and processing has become easier thanks to the advance to the technology. And as I mentioned before, AI is oxygen. Data is the oxygen of AI. And for the other side, because computer processing has become faster, so this is like the trees that generates the oxygen to the AI. And this, if we do not have this in the correct processing time frame, this time and volume of data would be impossible to analyze. So that's why since I started working with AI, every project I start with these two big challenges: the implementation and how the teams feel about that. So I think we all agree that the impact of AI, it's a fact. So if we can anticipate and start working on the transformation, we're going to be much prepared. And one of the most clear statements is that AI brings us the term that everything is possible, and things that we perhaps we dream about like 5 years ago, now they are part of our everyday tasks. So I think that in this AI era, our goal is to become like more listeners, creative, analytics, problem solvers, storytellers, and business partners, because incorporating all these tools would make us acknowledge that without taking into consideration the human side, AI is really impossible to achieve. No, to create an excellent business, you need to create the perfect combination between AI and people. So for my opinion, here it's when we become unstoppable, and your company or your business or your team or everything you want to change with AI really has no limits after that, because you have make that working together the best partners in this journey that you can have. So so if you want, now we can discuss about the things we have, or I have presented to you, in order to understand your thoughts and what you think, or if you have any question, I would be glad to answer back.
So there are questions in Q&A. Are you able to open it? There's one question in there. There's in the chat. Yeah.
Yes, I think that somebody is raising the hand.
Yeah. Are you able to read the questions as well, Camila?
Yes, of course. So here I have, let me check. Sorry, I'm not seeing the questions in there in the chat. So I have here a question: how does one exclude the data science biases? The machine thereby fails to consider important information. So that's a very interesting point, because when we start to seeing so much data, we start to also feel the bias about that. So I think that one of the best practice that we can have there is to in the minute we start with a project, like define our goals, and also not just like seeing the part from one point of view, because when we start like seeing in a lot of data, we can be also biased with that. But for me, when we start and define very good the problem in the first stage, that it's going to be much easier for us to take the better decisions. And also, I think it's great to have brainstorming sessions with other colleagues, and also trying to think outside the box in some stage, in order to break that lining point and trying to see other alternatives. Yes, here I have another question that it's some specific tasks that you do on your everyday basis. So what I try to bring also today in the conversation, it's one of the things that I like the most, that is like listen to people's problem. So what I do a lot is I have different conversations and meetings with different teams, and over that, what I try to understand is, as I mentioned in the talk before, it's what are the problems, what are the data that they're using, how they are using it, and in that part, I try to analyze how we could make their access to the data more easy, in an easy way. And in that part, what I do, it's also make some brainstorming meetings with engineering team, with data science team, to see what we can do and what we can present to them as a project and as a roadmap in order to make the projects work. So I think that it's a very important task and part of my everyday. If I have to divide it, it's like one part of the day more like meetings and understanding problems, and from the other side more like making the problems a real plan and an action plan and a real project in order to take that into consideration. And I have here another question. How do you make sure users' data is properly protected and used only in the right way? So I think that it's like one of the biggest challenge also that we're going to pass through, because if our data it's not good, it's not clean enough, it's not transformed in the correct way, the insights that we are going to see are going to be messed up, and they are not going to be useful for anything. So I think that the part of the engineering process is something that we need to take very carefully into consideration. You have to do a lot of audits. You have to do a lot of alerts in the process. You have to look to a lot of cleaning sessions. You have to look a lot about that part, because also about data privacy and data security, and be very careful, because our data is going to be the one that is going to also make this project successful or not. So I think that part of the project you need to be very careful of, and of course that you have to always like seeing like the two part of that part, like having that data clean enough and also in the proper way, and from the other side understanding what insights are you taking from that and how the business is going to be impacted because of that or not. And if we suggest something and we say, okay, the data is like telling me that this is the correct road, or I have to do this to carry on the project, I think it's very important if we also make a lot of comparison between the real like benefits of this, and understanding also if we had chosen the correct path or not, and work over that. So here I have another question. It's like, what are the tools used by you? What are the sizes of your data? What processing power is typically? And if you are doing it on the customer side. So in the side of tools and technology, we have most of the technologies in the market. So we have Amazon technology, we have Google, we have Snowflake technology also. So on that side, I think it's we have a very robust and technology aspect on that. And in the part of the site, it's like very difficult to have it that in mind, because we have so many complex and very diverse businesses, and it's also something confidential that I can share with you today. I don't know if you have any questions.
Yes, I think it's good. Yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I think it's fantastic to have you here. It was a privilege. Thank you, and thank you for our audience to participate. It was a good, engaging one. Hope to see you in next events.
Thank you very much, everyone, and it was a pleasure for me to be here.